Hello, guys. Welcome to another video from your Saltivation team. I'm Tram. We have Stacey Roberts, Alex Korzhen, and Meredith Smith. So today we decided to chat about software providers and kind of walking through what you're buying and really emphasizing the importance of understanding the functionality of the software you're getting, as well as the service and support that you may or may not get. But we really want to hash some of those important issues out today. So I'm just going to kick it off. And I guess, kind of the introduction of, sales tax software. There are a lot of providers out there, and they do promise you a solution that helps you manage your sales tax as well as managing the filings and the reporting. But in our experience, we've seen a lot of variations in the different providers in what you're getting, the pricing, the level of service from managed services, which is a term I think we'd want to dig into a little bit today, as well as, I mentioned earlier, functionality on the filing and reporting if a service provider is providing you, that as well. So I don't know who wants to speak on any of those topics, where I can chime in on any of that. No? Okay, I'll start off because I am the one who really was geeking on this, because
You run with your idea, Tram.
I know this
Tram
stuff is
show.
this is the Tram show today, because I've just had a lot of clients dealing with a lot of different vendors trying to figure this out, and helping our clients give them the best recommendation, right, and helping them select the right provider. So kind of one of the first things I mentioned is pricing, right? Understanding what you're getting. And what I've seen here is you get a lot of different, I guess, pricing in terms of, like, some might be based on transaction, some might be based on both revenue and transaction. And then we've also seen some in terms of like a customized pricing, because it's just not really clear, right, how these software providers are going to charge you for, the software itself, as well as the additional service and support that comes along with it. So I think that's one of the biggest thing, where depending on what kind of business you have, if you're a e-commerce provider or a seller where your transactions might be large, you have a high volume transaction business and you're selling low dollar items, right? Obviously, you know, your revenue may not be super high, but you have a ton of transactions. So in some cases, providers will charge just a ton for, that high volume transaction. And so what I've seen and, heard in terms of discussions with clients and other business providers is that where, if we're looking to recommend a service provider today, right, like based on, what they're doing, what their existing sales look like, pricing to me, what I've seen is it's pretty comparable from vendor to vendor. But if you're going to kind of do a forecast projection as to, hey, in 5 to 10 years, this is what we're thinking our sales and volume will be, that price range usually varies because of this pricing strategy that varies. So that's one thing I wanted to mention.
Well, and I think too, you've got to, like, we can appreciate the fact that you're looking to do something now, but to along kind of piggyback off what Tram is saying, you really need to kind of understand what your future may look like. You may be a QuickBooks user now, but let's say in a couple of years, you're going to integrate to a more sophisticated GL system. Does whatever product you pick now from a sales tax collection software, does that integrate with maybe what your future is? What do you anticipate growth being, where if it does come to that transaction base, where are you going to be in that growth period? And also, what kind of business are you going to get into, right? Because we've found that some software solutions work better with certain industries than others. And so do you think in the future, you're going to, also tack on a swag store to your software as a service, because you're, for whatever reason, right? So while, pricing and integration happens now, you also need to take into account what your future may look like. And that's hard to think about now if you're just trying to kind of just get your hands around the idea of like, all right, we're going to take that next step and do something for software, for sales tax. But then what is it going to look like coming up or in the future?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, Meredith, in terms of kind of analyzing, the specific business itself, because along the lines of pricing is also kind of the taxability decisions that support what you're selling. Because like today, if a company is selling SaaS, right, and the software provider does have all the taxability codes and decisions to support that, but they're going to expand into like digital goods or any other area that the software provider isn't equipped to support. I think a lot of the times the question is, what do you do? In some cases, you have to figure it out yourself, meaning, you have to custom code, or B, the software provider might or might not be willing to do the research and provide you those tax decisions. So I've kind of
Well,
seen a
yes,
little bit of both.
Stacey and I were just doing, we have a really great relationship with one of our software as a service clients. And every time they're thinking about doing something new, they let us know so that we can kind of assist them in, product taxability. And they are thinking of implementing a kind of reintegration fee to try to incentivize customers to not let their contract expire. And so they're going to tack on like a percentage fee for kind of reinstating their contract. And we could not find, kind of in the law even too, what the taxability of that kind of reinstatement fee is, but certainly they didn't have an appropriate taxability matrix or a code that aligns with actually what they're selling. And also what we've found is that it's really important that your vendor make available to you what the tax decision is behind that, kind of product assignment is, so that you can validate what you're going to be taxing, for your customers. And you can really get to the bottom of, okay, if I assign this product code 12345, I think it should be taxable in New York. Is it actually going to be taxable in New York?
Yeah, and I would also add, and we see a lot of differences with the software providers on the jurisdictions in which they will collect. And Meredith and I, specifically being in the fun state of Colorado with all of our home rules, if we have clients that need to collect in the home rules, not all of the software providers might be able to do that. So it's really important for companies to understand kind of their footprint and the jurisdictions in which they are selling into, and specifically locals. And we see some of this also in the SaaS space with like the city of Chicago having a specific tax around that. And so just urging our clients to really kind of understand that footprint and what they, what software can support where they are selling.
And I think one of the common threads here is really, what the system can do versus what sales or marketing is presenting, right, during the sales process or even the bidding process. Some companies will, and this is specifically true in kind of the cloud services space, the software space, where there's really a lot of nuance from the taxability perspective and all these different products. The law is pretty vague and if not vague, inconsistent amongst the states. So one sales process or salesperson will frame as, we've simplified the software process and, by reducing the codes. Well, that sounds great, but maybe that is the positive spin on less granularity, right? Whereas having more codes may be more technically accurate, but you'll tear your hair out trying to figure out which one you fit into without having that background. So it's, just there's a lot of sales that goes into this, and you kind of have to be mindful of the spin that it's putting on it. I mean, that's kind of stating the obvious, I think, but worth saying.
Yeah, no, along those kind of the same lines of the sales process where, I mentioned earlier the term managed services, a lot of the software companies are pushing that out as a, companies who don't have the resources or the expertise to handle some of the functionalities like the exemption certificates and the filings. A lot of these companies are pushing like a managed service, tier option for clients, and it's not that clear what they're actually going to do or the level of service. And I think, a salesperson might tell you, oh, yes, they'll help you handle it. They'll help you make sure it's right. And, you don't have to worry. But I guess, again, where they're setting up a company with, the wrong tax codes because it wasn't granular enough, right? As they're going through and saying, hey, these are the tax decisions or these are the exemptions, and they've managed it on audit. Those things don't really matter that you have somebody, a software company managing it. If it's not charging the right amount of tax or properly exempting it, at the end of the day, the taxpayer's on the hook for it. So I think it's super important to really have kind of that perspective in shopping for vendors.
Yeah. And on that, I find it also kind of just really difficult to get some understanding of even what their kind of not professional services. That's what we do. That's a whole other episode that I think you can probably find in our feed. But what exactly those charges for services are. And I don't think that the information put out there has been done very well to understand what that charge is. And that's going to be one of your reoccurring charges year over year. And it's going to go up. And I don't know that the value is always there on that kind of annual renewal fee for services. Because realistically, if I buy a software product, I should be able to call someone and make sure that it's working regardless of if I pay a service fee, because I'm paying for a software license that should be working. So you really got to kind of dive into that detail, like Tram said, but it's also hard to get the information and it's not readily available.
So I guess more of the story is get some professional help, meaning professional services that, people like, us can help our businesses, our taxpayers, and, the business community in figuring out what you're buying, as opposed to relying on what the salespeople are telling you in the sales. And
it's so we're having quick story time. We're having parent-teacher conferences today with our kids. I got young kids, and one of our questions is always, like, thanks for the feedback, but is this normal? How does this compare across, my kids' peers, right? So I think, that same kind of thing could be applied here is if you're not working with somebody who has that across the board experience, right, then you're not really sure if the information that you're hearing from the sales team from one of these providers is really appropriate or not. So, let us step into the shoes of my kids' teachers and help you understand if what you're being told is, normal or not.
Nicely said, Alex. Well, thank you guys. This was such a wonderful analogy, Alex. Super important for us to understand our children and our clients all at the same time.
Right.
Everybody on this call has young kids, so we're all nodding here. Hey.
Right, we get it.
I'm crying
in there.
in the background.
Well, appreciate you guys taking the time to discuss this very important topic. So hopefully the next time we gather, we'll have some good news to share, because hopefully we're spreading, our knowledge and our assistance across America. So thank you guys.
Thanks.
All right. Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. Take care.